Thank you very much, and thanks everybody for coming. My name is John Risto. I'm the Chief Congestion Management Agency Officer for VTA and in charge of the project development phases of this project. So probably the best thing to do is if you have a chance to get the fact sheet that's over here on the table, and if you haven't got that yet, it actually does a nice job of explaining what the project's all about. There's several different languages, so if you want to get that, English is to the far left. But while you're getting that, let me just give you an overview of what this is about. We're currently in the environmental review phase of this, and we did have two public open house meetings in January on the project, and then we subsequently visited City of Cupertino Council and Saratoga City Council as well. We've been working on the environmental portion of this project for about 2.5 years, and so it's been a lot of work to get to this stage so far. So if you get a chance to look at the fact sheet, it's a real good overview and gives you a nice little description of what the project is. The board's up here, and I do have some staff here, so if even after the meeting, if you want to go over in more detail of what the project's about, we can stay around and answer particular more detailed questions. We're here to answer any of the questions that the community has, and let me give you just an overview based on what the fact sheet is. The project runs the entire length of Route 85, all the way from Mountain View, all the way down into San Jose, and actually incorporates the two HOV direct connector facilities that, if you're familiar with driving in a carpool lane, allows you to stay in that carpool lane at both ends of 85 as you hit when you hit 101 on either the north or the south. What the project's proposing to do is actually convert the HOV lane, the carpool lane, to an express lane, and what we mean by that is actually going to allow single occupant vehicles to get in, but they have to pay a fee. It's a toll that's collected electronically via an overhead reader device, and it's the same fast track system that you use on the bridges, to cross the bridges, and it's the same fast track device that we use for two existing projects that are already in place on I-680 in Alameda and Santa Clara counties, and in the 237-880 express lanes in Milpitas and Santa Clara County. It also, besides converting that HOV lane, it also will propose to add a lane in a portion of the corridor between 280 and Route 87. So it's all electronic tolling. Is anybody's familiar with how the fast track system works? It's actually a reader that is above the lanes. Your fast track is actually an electronic device that actually then is read by the electronic toll reader device. And if you so choose as a single occupant vehicle to get in those lanes to bypass congestion, you're charged a toll. The tolls are set up as to actually work with the congestion levels within both all the general purpose lanes as well as the express lane. So what the project does is actually monitor all of the lanes to determine how congested all those lanes are, and then establishes a rate for that particular section of the roadway. And that rate can then change and be dynamic to make sure that those lanes are free flowing. So if the roadway is very congested, the price goes up. If it's not very congested, the price is lower. So what the board does show is the entire length of the Route 85 corridor. What we're trying to do, it actually gets into the details of where the entry points are, where the exit points are. To make this work well, there is some limited access and egress points on the whole corridor. I'm not going to go into all the detail there, but if there's questions that come up, we can talk about that, or even afterwards if you want to hear more about the specifics of that. The board also shows the places where the signs are located. There are signs to help motorists make a determination whether or not they want to get in that lane or not. It'll tell you in advance what the toll for that segment would be. It'll also tell you where the toll reader is and where the entry and exit points are. So again, this is actually a choice for someone who wants to get in and bypass congestion. Right now, those single occupant vehicles can't use those carpool lanes, only carpoolers will. After this project's open, carpool still gets to go free, it's just that it would be allowed for single occupants as well. Right, and when this is not in operation, it will be open to all. So when it's not during a commute period, or it's not in operation, it ends up, the sign says open to all.
Would the new lane be on the inside?
Are we ready to start taking questions right now, or do you want to introduce elected officials? I think I'm, okay. Yeah, we can do questions now, or you can do the introductions. That's fine. Yes, sir.
Would you change the carpool hours?
Right now, we're not considering changing, but on one of the projects we do have open, we had to extend it 1 hour because the commute period was really extended longer. So in order to provide that benefit to a longer period, it's on the 237 project right now. It actually goes until 10 o'clock in one direction. So right now, we're not proposing that.
But would you put something in writing in a performance agreement saying that?
Well,
the hours?
no, what the whole point of this is actually to make best use of the carpool lane and the freeway system out there, and using electronic tolling and pricing to make it manage. So what we're trying to do is make sure that that system works very well. So it is entirely possible that in the future, as congestion levels rise and the commute period extends, you may want to extend that period.
So you could penalize people that are currently benefiting from using that carpool lane as a solo driver during certain time periods, but they could lose that privilege.
Well, the only reason that you would do something like that is if everything is so congested at that period that it really helps the system if you would extend the carpool lane hours. So it really would only occur in that situation. Yes, sir?
Would there be a change to the width of the freeway in terms of the actual width?
No, we're not changing the width of the freeway. We're staying within the footprint of the existing freeway.
You said you're adding an additional lane, is that on the inside?
Let me get this and then get over to the other side of the room. Yeah, in the portion that we're proposing, the additional lane, it's using the inside median, so we're not widening the freeway at all. Over here?
My concern is that on 85 there are very specific bottlenecks that occur, particularly 85 and 280, 85
Right.
101, 85 17. I don't see how this, unless those overpasses and those intersections are going to be expanded, I don't see how this is really going to improve congestion.
So the question, if you didn't hear the question, there are already existing conditions of congestion at lots of places on the corridor. Some of those are due to the fact that there's freeways that are joining each other. This is intended more for the trips that are on 85. So what it's going to do is actually provide a lot more congestion relief for the 85 corridor. At the points that are at 85 and 101 when they come together, that's what I was mentioning earlier, that there's HOV direct connectors, so you actually get a lot of benefit by not having to get out of the carpool lane.
What about
At
85 and 280?
85 and 280 is probably the toughest part we have to deal with, and this does help that northbound commute, but it does not solve all the problems of the folks that are headed either direction on 280. It doesn't solve every problem. Over here.
Yeah, so if we could step back for a minute and put the merits of the program aside. So in 1989, we all reached an agreement between the city and the VTA and others. And you commented that you spent 2.5 years planning this. And it seems to breach many elements of that agreement. So I'm kind of confused how we got this far on this project with those breaches without this done.
So what the speaker is referring to is when the original 85 freeway was built back in 1994, but it was what you were referring to is an agreement between a couple of the cities in the corridor and the Santa Clara County Traffic Authority that was in charge of building the freeway at the time. And there was an agreement that talked about what the freeway would look like, and that there would be a reservation for mass transportation in the median. And we are reserved the mass transportation that we're doing currently, and we intend to do more of, is express buses in the median of the freeway. So we have never, VTA, or there has never been a plan for light rail in the median of 85. So there has never been a plan. There has never been light rail in the regional transportation plan. or VTA.
But I did.
So what we believe we're meeting the agreement because we're intending to continue to run express buses and run more of them because the ability to now have a free-flowing lane is really gonna make those work very well.
So the agreement included maximum of 6 lanes.
I think it said that they would be 6 lanes and they were reserved for mass transportation. Right.
I'm missing something.
We're gonna continue to run express buses on those lanes and
Well,
they're
the
gonna.
6 lanes, that's fine. Why do you get 2 more lanes?
Well, we think that it's actually gonna be a lot better project by having the additional lanes because of the high levels of congestion out there and to keep it free flowing and stuff like that.
I'm not talking about the merits of the project. I'm talking about the agreement that was reached for 6 lanes. Now you're talking 8 lanes.
Right,
So
and
how do you get 8 lanes from an agreement with 6 lanes?
well, because those are lanes that were described as being reserved for mass transportation
There
and.
were never lanes. There was never more than 6 lanes.
And I'm not sure how you can do mass transportation without adding a facility out there, whether it's lanes for buses or for something else. Yeah, we're proposing to use those now and. Right. Yes, sir.
You probably weren't here in, I don't know if you took part in the discussions 10 and 15 years ago or not, so this isn't personal, but you're evading that question clearly. You're mincing words and playing semantics. Let me finish, please. Then you can make faces. The agreement also clearly spoke to noise levels. The agreement spoke to landscaping. Those elements were breached the day the freeway was open and have been breached ever since. So if you'll not take this too personally, why should we believe you now after all of this false promise and breach of contract?
Yeah, I'm not sure that the agreement had a noise provisions. We
How
were,
can you not
well,
how can you come here and not have
we
read-
did quite a bit of extensive analysis on the noise for this project.
Are you
And
not familiar with that contract?
the project that we're talking about today does not increase the noise significantly. And so our analysis, I can only tell you what the analysis says, and then you can either believe that or not. We,
The existing noise level on that highway is excessive. There is extensive data showing that rubberized asphalt significantly reduces noise level. That data was available before this freeway was built. You chose not to do that. You put in you have a sunken freeway that was supposed to mitigate noise, sound walls to mitigate noise, vegetation that was supposed to attenuate noise. Then you put in a grooved freeway when data was available showing that rubberized asphalt reduced noise by as much as 10 dB. It's been used in Phoenix, it's been used in Tucson, Los Angeles County, Orange County, and extensively in Sacramento. Why hasn't that been done?
the original project had proposed Portland concrete cement, which is the surface that's out there, and I don't have any information as to why it wasn't done that way. That's the way it is in what we did. The noise analysis shows that there's only 2 locations, at least in Saratoga, that either are close to the federal level for noise abatement, and otherwise we didn't find any locations that it was exceeding that. So.
Can I interrupt just a minute? When somebody open that back closet and bring out more chairs so people in the back have a chance to sit down, there should be several more stacks of chairs, and I want to make sure everybody's comfortable. Second of all, we have an extra microphone, and if you'd like to ask questions or speak, would you come up to this microphone so that people don't get ignored, and you can make a little line here so that people can speak. Mr. Krug has asked a question. I'm going to go back to Mr. Krug so that he can continue. But then when people want to speak, please come up so that everybody can hear.
Do you have a portable microphone?
Well, we have.
Take it so people don't have to get up? Oh.
So I think the question was about the original freeway pavement that was put down, and that was Portland cement. And it had a groove in it, and we did come back about 8 years ago and tried to fix that. We did grind it smoother, so it did change the noise profile a little bit, but it's still Portland concrete cement that's out there. That was the choice of the original project.
Okay.
I think there are a couple of great suggestions that have come up here, and that is, when you enter into an agreement, you should not unilaterally undo it. And I'm not really saying that you're doing that, but I'm saying here it's been raised, and what happens is, at least in this country, you go back to the agreement, and the people that wrote the agreement with you and you agree to, and if you want to revise it, you go back and revise it with, with them, and you don't, usurp, any type of authority. You basically work it out. Otherwise,
Sure.
you stay with the original. But the other thing I wanted to point out, which also was mentioned here, is whenever you've got a particular thing that you're trying to improve, which is 85, one of the first things that you do is you look at the choke points. And you should go after the choke points first before all this exotic stuff that they're talking about.
We would love to do that. There is no funding to do it. The difference is this project actually brings.
$75 million to spend a day.
Yeah, and maybe it would help to explain that the funding dates for this is actually to be paid by the users. So we will have, it's the user fees that will be helping to fund that.
It might be, I understand on that, but I'm saying here is, I think you can hear it.
You have a big
Listen,
voice.
the thing is that there is money. It comes from gas tax. You look at that, you all know that. The thing goes in, and I'm just saying it's a matter of allocating, the money, of how you move it. I mean, so I would say here is, I don't agree that there's no money. The money is there. It's a matter of how you allocate.
Okay.
Okay?
Say one more thing. When you agree with the speaker, just raise your hand, okay? So that then we can see where this is going instead of it just descending, okay?
Hi, so,
Hi, sure.
hi, I'm Pat. So I have this performance agreement here dated 1989, and section 4 reads, Route 85 through the city will be a 6-lane facility with a median width of 46 feet, reserved for mass transportation, and a vertical profile as shown in attachment A. I don't have attachment A.
Yeah, I think they're referring to that it is a depressed freeway. Yeah.
Okay, well, we need some lights. Okay. Later on, in section 8, it reads, CalTrans has developed a visual theme for the Route 85 bridges which utilize tapered round box structure and piers. The city may include aesthetic non-structural changes which may enhance the preferred local theme. Bridges will be designed and constructed in a manner not to preclude future light rail development in the freeway median. So I think between those two statements, there is little question in my mind that the median was not to be paved with lanes.
Yes.
And you're paving the median with lanes,
For private.
which is a breach of this agreement. How do you speak to that?
Well, if we need to go back to the cities and discuss that change, we will certainly do so, but there has never been, that's the traffic authority, unfortunately, there's never been a plan for light rail in that.
It doesn't matter whether there was a plan for light rail or not, what my
Right,
argument is.
so we could go back and review that with the cities and see if there's a desire to change that.
Change what?
The portion that speaks to the reservation, whether or not we would be able to use that for buses.
Okay. So, but as it stands right now, there's no doubt in my mind that what you are proposing is in breach of this agreement. Okay, no question in my mind. So I think that you need to go back and speak to your management chain and address that and come back to the
Sure.
city. And I would ask our city council members to make sure that that happens. Yes.
Gotta be taken up in court.
Right.
I think we got probably a few lawyers in the room too.
Oh, they wanted $300,000 with these up to go to that, tonight, trust me.
It's a court issue. It's not our.
Mr. Levi?
Yes,
Yeah.
Levi?
Levy,
Libby.
I live next to the freeway on Anza Drive. The noise has been driving me crazy. You see the gray hair? And I'm expressing the sentiment, we don't trust you guys anymore. We don't. Now, I'd like to propose something, that you can get our attention even to that agenda only after you take steps, tangible steps like rubber, to reduce the noise on the freeway. I speak for myself, if anybody else wants to join me, please. The only time you get our attention, even the support. So let's talk about the noise.
So we've done quite a bit of noise analysis for this project. There was original noise analysis too. I don't have that in front of me, but what we found was that this project adds within the corridor somewhere between 1 and 3 decibels, depending on where you are. In the city of Saratoga, it's 1 decibel.
Come to my,
What we,
come to my backyard.
right, there may be a noise level there that is not to your liking, but it does not exceed the levels of abatement and mitigation that we have. We're following all the state and federal protocols when it comes to noise analysis and abatement and mitigation. So what we want to do is actually work with the city's staff to see if there's ways that we can actually mitigate that so that there is no